Hey, hello, welcome to the Social Justice Forum. I am your host, Daren Jaime. Thank you for joining us. And if you're asking the question, what is the show all about? Well, we bring you a forum that discusses and provides a deeper understanding of the issues and inequities that so many communities face. From systemic inequalities to pressing social problems, our guests provide multiple perspectives as well as the insights, helping us to better understand and address the challenges. So, we invite you to stay connected to us. The Social Justice Forum starts now. And welcome back. When the Marijuana Regulation Taxation Act was signed into law on March 31st of 2021, New York made history, legalizing adult use cannabis for those 21 and over and promising a new and equitable industry. The goal was clear: right the wrongs of the past, address the severe racial disparities in enforcement, and build a vibrant legal market. But the rollout, anything but smooth. The path to a regulated system has faced significant hurdles. Our next guest, staunch advocates for criminal and social justice reform. One draws from his lived experiences as a formerly incarcerated citizen, spending 19 years in prison, directly impacted by the anti-cannabis enforcement. He's now an adjunct assistant professor at NYU's Silver School of Social Work. The other, a seasoned senior executive and advocate, an entrepreneur who carries 8 years of experience in the legal cannabis industry, make it 9. Here with us now to spotlight their Cannabis Justice and Equity Initiative, highlighting their commitment to eradicating the inequities of cannabis prohibition in New York State, are the co-founder and the executive director of the Cannabis Justice Equity Initiative, Terrence Coffie, and the co-founder and the chief operating officer of CJEI, Jamil Myrie. And I want to say Dr. Terrence Coffie.
Professor Terrence Coffie.
Professor
We'll go with
Terrence
that.
Coffie. All right, all of that. But thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you for having us. Thank you for having us.
It's a good conversation to have, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that let's first get at it. You know, the cannabis space was highly, controversial for a minute. But talk about why you feel it's important for you and then others to be in that space.
Oh, that's you, man.
I was looking at you.
I know you
I had it right. I'll bring it in.
Well, it is. I think it is extremely important for the community and for those who have been impacted negatively. Mm-hmm. Let's just call it what it is: harmed by anti-cannabis enforcement and the laws that were in existence prior to the MRTA's passing. We really carried the burden. We bear the burden for this legal industry to exist and to thrive and to becoming what is now, $2 billion industry and growing. And for our communities to not be involved, and I'm talking from the standpoint of the workforce, from the entrepreneurs that are to come, not just in the plant touching side, but also in the ancillary, side of the business, because it is an industry. Again, $2 billion inside of, 2.5 years, just shy of 3 years of legalization. There's a tremendous amount of opportunity here, and our folks just don't know. They don't know, and therefore we work hard at CJEI to find the different pathways to not just bring the awareness and the education to our communities, but also to bring our communities and their voices into this conversation that they really have not been a part of for a long time.
And when we talk about, you start out by saying we, and I wanted to emphasize Black and brown communities. That's specifically who have really been targeted, those who have been incarcerated, those who have done life sentences, and we still got some people who are still in prison for selling. And now you have an industry that says it's legal to sell from a person that's been on the inside and then on the outside. Talk to me about just the marriage of your feelings. How do you digest that when you look and say, man, you know what? I got brothers that I know who are locked up for selling, and now we have the ability to sell, there's an injustice there all by itself.
Yeah, Daren, thank you for having us. And, I'm committed to understanding and knowing that those closest to the problem are closest to the solution. I think the challenges that we're facing, particularly in this new legal market, in relations to the efforts surrounding America's war on drugs, that we continue to have people who are incarcerated. We still continue to have communities that are marginalized from the very industry that we are supposed to be benefiting from, based upon legislation that was passed. And I think that the work of CJEI, our commitment is to ensure that we're placing those communities first, not only when we talk about licensing, but also when we talk about workforce and opportunities in this industry. One thing I like to make clear, and this is not only when we talk about the local, state, or national trends. The 5 boroughs, for example, right here that make up New York City, or have more arrests than the state combined. And yes, combined. So I think that when we talk about equity, when we talk about opportunity, when we talk about providing pathways, that I support the legalization of marijuana and the passage of the MRTA for various reasons. One was to ensure that those communities that were most harmed would have opportunities in this industry, but also when we talk about licensing, to ensure again that the steps that were taken by the state in regards to expungement, which in my opinion were steps in the right direction, or we talk about card licensing, which would provide those individuals with who were impacted first opportunities at that. I see those as steps in the right direction.
Right.
However, we must be clearly understand that those groups represent about 5% of those individuals that, when we think about the communities over the past 30, 50 years that have impacted by anti-cannabis enforcement in America's war on drugs. So it's a small fraction, step in the right direction, but our commitment in the work at CJEI is to ensure that our messaging and our work reaches a much more broader impacted community.
Right. We talk about people supposed to be at the table, people supposed to have opportunity, expungement, the whole 9 yards. You guys are sitting at the table. Are we seeing it happen?
I think that the metrics, if you will, the scoreboard, as it exists today, New York has in essence established itself as the high watermark in this effort to legalize cannabis throughout the United States. And in that regard, I tip my hat. We definitely have achieved, a model for other states to really chase. And social equity has been, because of the MRTA, which is social equity law, it's in the law that, those that were most harmed and those communities that were most harmed by cannabis enforcement really get a chance at this opportunity. Part of that is 50% of the licenses that were, awarded need to be, in essence, for social and economic equity applicants or license, eligibility. We, to date, are hovering somewhere in the 56, 57% of the licenses that have been issued to date are social and economic equity, applicants or license holders, which is a tremendous feat in and of itself.
Right.
The challenge, which as an executive, as an operator, is I know, and an entrepreneur, you gotta have money to do this. This is a capital-intensive industry. It takes a lot of money to build these businesses. You're talking about folks who have been, systemically disenfranchised, folks who are coming out of, who are, returning citizens. Where's this money supposed to come from when they've gotten these licenses? Where's it supposed to come from? And that's been the challenge in many respects for so many businesses. And then when you sort of layer on top of that the challenge for real estate,
Right.
right? That now throws in a whole level of, of capital that is required just to secure real estate. And we're just talking about dispensaries. There's processing, there's cultivation, there's distribution. All of these things are part of the supply chain that require tremendous capital, and so we still have a ways to go,
Right.
as it relates to that.
And I know part of what you do is you elevate this because you have an elevated platform now. You got a TV show, right? I should be sitting here, right? I should be, but you guys have a TV show now that really talks about cannabis is in the city.
Yeah.
What are you hoping the people are taking away from that experience? And why did you guys, first of all, I'll let one of you talk about why did you decide to come together, put the show together real quickly, and then what do you hope people are taking away?
Well, let me say one of the things that Jamil and I recognized as it relates to information and this industry, that the very communities that we're discussing today were the very communities that were not very clear on the opportunities of this industry. When
Right.
we legalized, and we've been doing this work way before, prior to the show itself, in some of the hardest hit communities, and we went and started, really engaging with people in the community and asking them what they knew about cannabis, which was one part of the segment that Jamil conducts now, where he goes into the community on what you heard. Because if we're going to create sensible policy, programs, whatever, then we need to hear about what needs to be, what these people know. And what we understood, that the greater majority of our community just knew it was legalized, not the economic opportunities, not the the employment opportunities, not the all the things that we discussed when we talk about social equity, the 40% that goes to programming and to our communities to help support. None of that. So our commitment was not, we knew first and foremost it was important for us to engage our community and educate them on the knowledge, the laws that surround. You can't just puff past anywhere.
Right.
There's a legal ramification to that. So we wanted to ensure that the communities that we represent and that we serve were aware of not only the opportunities but the laws that surround this cannabis industry. And what we realized, and the next step was we were doing that in a community fashion with different organizations, et cetera. What we wanted to do was broaden that opportunity for more people to hear about, to learn, and to know about the industry,
Right.
which what brought about the Cannabis in the City Bronx.
So it really started, with, and to label it, we started with our community engagement called Community Conversations. And it started really on a Saturday afternoon in the Polo Grounds. We with our partners Lead by Example, up in their space on the second floor above a laundromat. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
we
right,
taking
right,
it all
right.
the way real.
Right.
And you had two people that show up who were just, they saw some flyers, some posters, around the neighborhood. They came. Then the next week it was 6 people. Then the next week it was 10 people. And we always knew that we got things to say, because weed hasn't been it didn't just up and
Right.
come out of the concrete. This been in we created this thing,
Right.
this industry, so to speak. We know how to do it better in plain sight.
Right.
We know how to do it in plain sight, and nobody is the wiser. But now that it's legal, what does that actually mean for the community, and what are they feeling about it? How are these laws? How are these regulations? How are these, these aspects of the law impacting folks, and what do they think about it? With all this effort is going into, the jobs, the licenses, all of these things, but we don't know. Cannabis jobs, on the show, I do a segment, What You Heard. I'm like, yo, we taking this in this, we in the streets,
Right.
we in the streets, and when you hear cannabis jobs, what comes to mind? Cannabis job, what's that? You mean like hustling? Like, I
Right.
mean, those are the responses. Some people, I don't know anything about cannabis legalization. There's no education that's happening that is, in essence, broad-based, so that folks, more eyeballs. Like we did a 5-borough tour, hit up all the boroughs in this particular format. Great success, but you got to do that 5 million times over.
Right.
So the television show really allows us to get to those eyeballs and leverage the power of media in
Right.
that way.
Right.
That we can do it, and more people can get access to it.
That's a conversation I want to continue. We got to bring you back because I'm out of time. But listen, I want to tell you, I think it's great that the conversation is being had. A lot has been focused on incarceration, right? And when we talk about incarceration, but you're bringing a level of education,
Yeah.
right? And opportunity, right? We're talking about employment opportunities. We're talking about entrepreneurial opportunities. We're talking about opportunities and
Empowerment.
Right,
This is
there it is.
empowerment.
And so, if the opportunity is available, how people should know and how people can take advantage of it. So, thank you so much. How do people watch the show?
How do they watch it? You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, CJEI Presents Cannabis in the City. You can tune in to our show, Bronxnet. It's really on public access television every month. We are there. We are live. You can follow us on Instagram at the CJE Initiative. You can follow us on LinkedIn. The same CJEI Presents, the Cannabis in the City, as well as X platforms, all podcast platforms. We are there. We are in these streets. So come find us.
Stay in the streets, brother.
Yeah.
It's an honor and a pleasure to meet
Thank
y'all.
you so
Thank you
much.
so much. Yes, sir.
Always.
Keep up the great work. Glad to have you on the platform with us. And
Hey, brother, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you,
Look forward
man.
to coming back with you.
Listen, got to come back, all right?
I'll bring you on our show.
I love that. No, listen, I got something to say. All right,
Yes, you
brother.
do.
Yes,
All
sir.
right.
All right, listen, we'll take a quick break. We'll be back more with Social Justice Forum right after this. And welcome back. Our next guest is a feminist leadership expert aiming to empower women to move forward with their career goals through their joy. Now, she goes beyond traditional leadership advice, and she offers actually a practical approach that integrates wisdom from modern business and ancient intuitive practices to encourage a full-bodied approach to leadership, helping women not only survive but thrive in and out of the workplace. And joining us now to provide further insight on these strategies, highlighted in her book, Guts and Grace, is the founder of the award-winning coaching program, Guts and Grace, Ms. Mallorie. And thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, and thank you for your patience. Honestly, glad to have you sharing with us and, to have this discussion, talking a little bit about the work that you do. I'll first off start by saying, what really got you entrenched in saying, listen, I want to do this work?
I started my career as an executive coach and trainer in 2005, kind of 6. And to be honest, I was way too young to be playing the game. But I got lucky. I was offered a job in a firm that was doing a pretty deep dive form of executive leadership training and coaching. And at that time, I was highly skilled and intuitive, basically just reading people. So I came in with no experience in business, no understanding of what was happening in the business world, but I could cold read somebody like that. And very quickly, I gained a lot of ground with my clients. What happened during that time was that because I was the youngest person on the team of the company I was working for, I was actually often coaching either the least senior person on the team, which 20 years ago, and frankly, even still today, is often the only woman on the team or the only person of color on the team. And so during that time, I really got to see the difference in what folks were contending with if they were in a female body versus a male body while trying to lead in these large organizations. And around the same time, I started studying mindfulness practices, embodiment practices, things that were not really at that time in particular being incorporated into traditional leadership. But I found when I would bring those practices to my clients, their results would be off the charts. And so it just helped me kind of find this niche where certain things weren't being taught in traditional leadership programs that laid the foundation for building the body of work that is now Guts and Grace.
Yeah. So let's talk about women in the workplace for a moment, because obviously we are approaching at the start of a new year, and women are really trying to find their footing even deeper and stronger when it comes to the workplace, having conversations with some of the female colleagues that we know, and they still talk about the gender issue, pay equity, respect. But how do you see empowering women in the workplace today. What advice are you giving?
Well, what we see today, unfortunately, compared to 20 years ago, is that things haven't changed that much for women in the workplace. If you're feeling like that is so, you're not crazy. Definitely still today in many industries, fewer women are at the C levels. Certainly venture capital funds fewer women. If you're trying to raise money, you're an entrepreneur. There's a lot of data that just suggests that there are still really a lot of barriers. What I've found and what we focus on at Guts and Grace is a little bit of a different angle, though, that almost the most insidious thing that women are challenged by is that there's a tremendous amount of what we could call invisible labor that happens inside the workplace that actually often falls in the sweet spot of many women leaders' superpowers. So there's certain kinds of things that women will tend to do that don't get seen, don't get credit, are challenging, and that frankly leads to exhaustion, to burnout, to frustration, to not feeling visible, to not getting promoted. So these kinds of things are very important in terms of making workplaces tick. These are things like I'm a person who, for example, really can read the room or is able to process the emotions that are running on the team when nobody else is actually taking care of those things, or going out and having conversations with multiple stakeholders so we can come up with a really good solution. And yet those things are often not going noticed. So this is where I tend to focus in terms of supporting women to both, one, own the actual importance of those contributions that they're making, and then begin to advocate for in different ways those things not only getting seen and noticed, but frankly being things that make them promotion worthy or raise worthy. So really building this relationship with this stuff that doesn't get seen, that tends to drive burnout, but that also can be, if you learn how to speak about it, trust it, use it in your own language in terms of how you talk about what makes you a great leader versus discount it, this can start to be the opening for another level of recognition and often career elevation over time.
You got two aspects right here. You've got one side where you've got people who are in that stage of burnout, and you've got so many people who are starting this new year off like, oh my God, I'm just trying to get there, right? But they know on the inside of them, trying to get there is also reminiscent of or speaks to full potential. I've got my full potential.
Exactly.
And there's this dichotomy, if you will. You can't get to sometimes the full potential because of burnout. How does a person get to that place, a leader get to that place, where they're really maximizing their full potential in this season, given the fact of all the things that we are forced to contend with?
First of all, I love that you see that. And what you're naming is exactly why I created the body of work and wrote Guts and Grace. So this is my book, Guts and Grace.
Yes.
The work is really focused on the intersection of resilience and leadership. So often it can feel like there's a trade-off. Often folks will come to me and it's like, look, on one hand, I want the next promotion. I know I have more to contribute. At the same time, I'm so burnt out that if I'm like looking up at my boss's job or I'm looking at the next thing that's available, I'm like, I couldn't do that because I actually can't. I don't have the energy right now. And so there becomes this tension or trade-off of either or. Part of why I use the expression guts and grace, and frankly just the and in guts and grace, is that there is a potential, if you're not willing to sell it on either of those things, I'm not willing to burn out anymore, and I'm also committed to my full potential, to find some kind of a third way. But frankly, it looks different for most people. So it's not like I can give you a cookie cutter answer. The beginning of the answer, though, is being able and willing to go, I want both. Question, how can I have that?
Right.
And inside of Guts and Grace, what we're really doing is we're contending with that question. So 99% of the time, there's some kind of survival strategy, way of being, way of operating, maybe way I've trained that I need to lead that actually won't get me to the next level. And I've been running that strategy for a long time so that I hit a ceiling in terms of who I can become with that. All that to say, the strategy that's burning, the thing that you're doing or what you're experiencing that's burning you out is likely not going to take you to the next level, even though it may have been what you've learned is the right way to lead. So there comes this moment of reckoning or contending with, there's a different way to get there. Now, I'll just say PS and not a small PS. Often, there's some aspect of internalized oppression or an experience of contending with discrimination in the workforce that has caused me to develop that strategy. So part of what the path is that we're working with inside of Guts and Grace is how do I begin to unravel the things that I've learned that aren't actually totally about me or my full potential or my full expression, but that make it so that I both burn myself out and don't get ahead. I'll give you a short example. So I have a client who is working in the cybersecurity industry, for example, and she's learned that to get things done in the workplace, she has to move fast, drive hard, lean in all the time. And it's really a recipe for burnout. So when she came to me, she's like, I don't even know if I want to lead anymore. However, what she's learned is that building in more rest and recalibration, slowing down in some cases, actually being able to practice checking out from the hyper drive that has been part of how she's gotten to the level she's at. Suddenly now she's both more rested and she's starting to get promoted. She's being offered more money. She's being invited into initiatives that now she actually has the bandwidth to do. This unlock is available, but it's not easy. And this is what we focus on in the work that I teach.
Yeah. So I only have a few seconds left, but I do want to get to this point of helping people, right? Because that's exactly what Guts and Grace does. The book is actually designed to help people advance in their career. Let's talk about how people can get connected to it and what sets you apart. If somebody says, listen, LeeAnn, what sets you apart? What would you answer?
100% what I said. So what sets us apart is that we're primarily focused on the unconscious perhaps, but embodied habits, patterns, strategies that have been the here's how I got ahead up until now that need to get perhaps reconsidered, dismantled, addressed, let go of to be able to actually get to the next level. And to do that, not just in the mind, but also through the body. So we actually teach one of the first principles in Guts and Grace is movement and joy. And we offer simple practices that are designed to help you, for example, get moving and feel healthy, well, resilient, joyful again, so that you can come back to work and begin to take the next steps.
Well, I want to thank you so much for taking the time and sharing with us today. For people who want to get a copy of the book, what do they do?
Books available on Amazon or anywhere you buy books, and you can follow us online. My Instagram is LeeAnn.Mallorie on Insta. LinkedIn is a great place to find me, same thing, and then gutsandgrace.com is our website.
LeeAnn, thank you so much for being with us. Got to have you back and enjoy the conversation.
Thanks for having me.
All righty. LeeAnn Mallorie, the author of Guts and Grace, and certainly if you want to elevate your profile, check her out and check out the book. All right, we come to the end of our show today. I hope that you enjoyed this week's discussion on the Social Justice Forum, talking about the real issues that matter. Now, rewatch this week's edition. Catch the cable cast right here on Bronxnet.org. If you want to join the conversation and present your point of view, well, guess what? You can visit our social media at Bronxnet TV and join us next week. We continue to elevate the discussion and bring further awareness across the globe. I am your host, Daren Jaime, saying take care, God bless, and we'll talk to you soon.